Okay, this is for the Web Server Administration course. I want to show you how to create a VM, a virtual machine, within Workstation's VMware Workstation. So what we have is our Workstation screen, and under File, for instance, we have, you can create new virtual machines here, new windows, you connect to servers, virtualize a physical machine. That's an option that VM Workstation allows you to take that physical box, your notebook even, for instance, and make a virtual machine out of that. With that virtual machine, you can just go ahead and pick it up and put it on any other box and run it through VMware, a workstation, or player. So that's an interesting feature. Also, what I want to mention right off is that these VMs that we create in a workstation can be ported to VM Player very easily. Now, if you create the VM in Player, you can't move the VM to Workstation. So it's one of those built-in incompatibility issues that VMware has done. So continuing on, under Edit, let's see, regular things, View, VM. This is where you would work, or the options that you would select most often. Your power buttons for the VMs, you can turn the VMs off, on, suspend them. Typically suspend your VM, whether it be Linux or any other VM. Suspend that for in our situation. You can add or remove removable devices. Your flash drive you can connect as a drive to your VM, or you can remove it. The send, control, alt, delete, oftentimes, and I guess actually Windows is the best example, you need to have a control, alt, delete sent to your VM, so it'll go ahead and allow you to maybe log on or open the task manager. If you have your VM open and it's not full screen, you hit control, alt, delete, and it goes to your Windows desktop's task manager, or will log you off or on your desktop, not the VM. So that's why you have to go ahead, and this is the menu option. This is the icon that will send that control, alt, delete. Alright, you can take a snapshot, you can go to settings, and actually with VM settings, this is where you can go back into each one of these specifically opened, or this open VM, and change the settings for the VM, as in memory, as in processors, as in network adapters, as in what that CD is connected to. You can go back in to your VM and change the location or the ISO that the CD is pointing to, so it essentially acts as if you're popping out one CD and putting in another. Okay, so that's a nice feature, and it's pretty handy. Now let's go ahead and start or create one more thing. So you have the home tab that allows you to create new machines, open the virtual machine, do all these things, virtualize that machine, for instance. But all the open tabs that you have, all the VMs that you have that are open, will be also tabbed. So in this case, I have a Windows Server 2008. Let's go back to home. We will create a new virtual machine. We want to focus on creating a VM for Linux, SUSE. What type of configuration do we want? Just a typical. Under installer disk image, I had already selected SUSE as the ISO, but at this point you'll go in and you've probably, and I'll talk about this in class, you want to grab this ISO off of the classes, computer technology, Scott folder, and copy it down to an external hard drive or the thaw drive on the computer that you're working on. Okay, because you want to be able to run and install these ISOs locally and not across a network. Now in my case here, I'm just going to go ahead and browse. I've already found where the ISO was located. I have a stack of ISOs, if you will. I'm going to go ahead and select SUSE 11.0 or 11.1 ISO. These other ISOs are also out there on that classes drive, so if you can go ahead and help yourself to any of those, install any of those, it's absolutely fine. We'll go ahead and select that. You can see that under the information icon that SUSE Linux Enterprise 11 is detected, and we'll go to next. Now the full name You can enter anything that you want. I'll just enter my name. Now the username, you'll have two accounts that are created with Linux. You'll have the root that's already created. That's the system administrator, is the root account, ROOT. But the other account that you create is a lower privileged account, and I'm just going to call mine Sean. Now you can call yours whatever you want. The password that goes with this, keep it simple. Now Linux may argue, but I think it'll go ahead and accept it and use it. So I'm just going to go ahead and leave this as Sean for my password and confirm it with Sean as well. Now this is important. The password is for both user and root accounts. Remember, I'd mentioned that root account is the system administrator. So just remember what that password is. The system administrator, that root account, has all power, is all powerful, can do anything it wants. Now you logging on, even though this password is used for both accounts, when you log on, you have a typical user's permission set. A little more than that actually, but a typical permission set. If you want to do application installations, you're going to use this root account, ROOT, and the password that you've set up. Okay, we'll go to next. We can name this virtual machine whatever we want. I'm going to call it server because we're going to have a server and a client. This is important. If you're saving this, or if you're installing your VMs onto an external hard drive, or onto the thaw drive there, I think it's drive D, on the computers in DON 131, you'll want to change this location. By default, VM Workstation and Player defaults to C:users, documents, virtual machines, and so on, but it's on that local drive. That local drive on the computers in DON 121, deep freeze is set up on those computers. So you won't be, even if you do save it to those drives, I don't know if you can, it's not going to be there the next time that machine boots. So you absolutely want to save these VMs someplace else. Okay, and again, drive D is that thaw drive. External hard drive is probably the best thing to do, because then you can go ahead and take those home with you and work on them with Player. So, or a Workstation will work as well. Okay, I think we're good there. I'm just going to select the default because I'm using my notebook. Alright, maximum disk size is 20 gig, that's fine. We want to store a virtual disk as a single file. That's a little easier to work with. We want to go to next. We want to customize hardware. We don't have to customize hardware. Now, SUSE will work just fine in 768 megs of memory. The footprint of Linux is way smaller than a Server 2008. In that particular class, we had to set those the memory for those VMs up at about 1.5 gigs, generally speaking, to run well enough to work with. We had some variations with that, but that was kind of the size of it. With SUSE, we can go to 768. If you have 32 gigs of memory, you probably want to leave it at that. If you have more memory than that, if you want to bump it up to 1.5 gigs or something, that would be fine. Processors, you can change that. It depends upon your machine, whether it's a notebook or whatever you use, as far as how many processors you can use. Using more processors improves the performance. The other piece that we absolutely have to do is change your network adapter to bridged. NAT will just assume IP addresses off of your desktop. We want to apply, because we're creating servers, we want to apply specific IP addresses. So we want to go ahead and use bridged. Alright, that'll close that. And we would just go on. Now, this is checked on. Power on this virtual machine after creation. That's fine. We want to finish this. Okay. With this, I don't think you'll see this at school, but it says I would just register your version with VM Workstation because I don't want to pay for it, and I can run this for like 30 days. You can run this for 30 days without having to register it, and I don't want to register this on my notebook. So I'm just going to go ahead and actually close that, and I should be set to go. I should be able to power on this virtual machine. The memory is set, the processors, the hard drive, the network adapter is set to bridged. So I should be good to go, and the next video should go ahead and be set cover powering on the virtual machine and installing SUSE. So thank you very much.